I worked on the dragon bike, the J Dragon bike, and that was a challenge because there are so many things going on in that set between the Dragon J form, the new like nunchucks, the crystallized nunchucks, and then also the Crystal Warrior. It's kind of hard to design a small set because a lot of your budget is already spent before you start designing it. So you're kind of left with this brief being like, it needs to be a motorbike. So okay, it's 2 tires. So you put the 2 tires in your budget. And you're like, okay, that leaves me with this much. And then the special 2K molded head of the dragon is also quite fancy part. Let's say it that way. So getting to kind of massage the amount of pieces I had around to make sure that it was a motorbike that held on to 2 wheels and the dragon head and J was a challenge, but it was a fun one because I hadn't done a small price point set in a while at that point. That wasn't a mech because I mostly do mechs as it turns out. That's my specialty. Um, no, that was really fun because in the end of the day, I ended up having a kind of some budget left. I've been reading the scripts for the new episodes because we only had scripts at this point. And I start seeing some concept art for what the crystal spiders look like. And I wasn't aware they even existed. It just our concept art just gets dumped into a folder, and then Dimi sends me a text saying, "Hey, have a look at some of the concept art." So I looked at it and was like, "This is cool." And I asked him like, "How big is this thing? Is this like a huge playset?" He's like, "No, it's supposed to be just kind of like a small spider thing." So I started kind of exploring how we could make that as a conflict because I thought that would be a super exciting thing to get if it was going to be as prevalent as I thought from the scripts that I read at this point, because they ended up coming up many episodes, which I didn't. I only had the scripts for I think the first 10 episodes or something. So I read those and I saw how often they appeared, and they all appear like another 5 or 6 times after that. Even very happy that we made the decision because it was based on very limited information. Yeah, I love that little spider. I think it's super fun. And then I also designed the Nia Samurai X mech, which was a crazy mech to design because it kind of went everywhere. We've started off with a pixel color scheme one, and then we moved on to a classic Nia color scheme, so dark red and some black, and then started introducing more blue, and then more blue, and then more blue, and then oops, and it's all blue, and then we got rid of the red, and really like the very first sketch model I did for it was built around the X. Like the whole idea behind it was because it's Samurai X, we wanted to have a huge X on the chest, and it was kind of an evolution of how the original one had the big Spinjitzu spinner piece on the chest, which is kind of also like an X. So we kind of tried to extrapolate that and make it bigger. I actually built the that one in preparation for this. Like I built the original 2000 and I want to say 2012 one. Yeah. So I built that, and it was super fun to build because it was made by Mark Stafford, who's one of my like childhood heroes. So it was super fun to get to do another take on it. I think one of the stickers has Mark Stafford's initials on it as MJS, Mark John Stafford, as a little tribute to the original set because it's such an iconic Ninjago set. Like it's what I think about when I think about old school Ninjago. And then with that mech, we kind of tried to make one that was like big as and impressive as the combiner mech, but focusing a little bit more on articulation, which is why it has knees. It was a real challenge to make because the ankles were really hard to make move, and we ended up having them locked quite severely. The thing about the new hip connector that we have made is that it's really great about at making sure the leg can move back and forth. The thing about a two-axis rotation is that you still can't have the hip rotation. If this is the hip, you still can't rotate it this way. Like you can move backwards, forwards, and sideways, but you can't rotate this way, which is why an ankle is very important for creating dynamic poses and dynamic kind of silhouettes because the feet need to be able to go outwards. Otherwise, it will just look like the feet are straight, which with a regular parallax will almost look like they're pointing inwards, which is like the last thing you want when you want a cool mech, right? So I'm happy we managed to keep the ankle rotation. It has a tiny bit of back and forth. And yeah, the I love being able to make a completely enclosed cockpit, which is something that we've got full sign off from everybody because it's something that we don't normally do because we want to make sure that you can see the minifigure on the front of the box, and this was a cool opportunity to not to have to do that, and it worked out well with the X being kind of the focal point of the model. It was my original idea to make the Crystal King a Centaur. It was actually based on some like fantasy creatures that I was looking at, and I was like, it would be really cool if we do a dragon Centaur because I'd never actually seen anything like that before in Ninjago, so that would be awesome. Mine was more upright, I guess, or how would I say that? The front legs were kind of longer to make it seem slightly more on par with what a regular kind of Centaur looks like, where the legs are like very long and then you've got a very short torso on top of it. Yeah, it was a super fun sketch to take, and then after I finished my sketch, I gave it to Leo, who was then kind of the right-hand man to Sven for making sure everything looks consistent. So he gave it a pass with his kind of design philosophy, and then once he had done one, it was handed to Dimi, who is normally kind of in charge of making our organic creatures to make sure that it looked like an organic creature, not just another mech, which I think he did a great job with.
So yes, for Crystalized, I was lucky to do the Crystal King. It's for me a very unique creature build that we did. And the fact that we opened up the possibilities, because we were looking at different things weren't working, and then we had a boost, so a day where anyone can do anything they feel for that. Like, let's say we want to do the Crystal King, what would you do for that? So on this one, we started. Nick did the Centaur. I think it was the one that I have on the concept slides, the first one. Then I did a big beast that also kept some of its identity on the flying beasts. I was like, I'm going out there. It doesn't have to resemble anything particular. What would it be? And then Leonardo did the very armored and very knightly one, still based on the idea from Nick. And then, of course, I took over and I refined it. The picture I have there is the first pass that I did, that I was, of course, not happy at all with it. It's very bulky. It was missing a lot of things, form. The face people felt that it's very beastly and very aggressive. And that's why I have also a picture of the two later heads, the one that made it into product and the previous one. And when I did the one on the left, Leo was like, "Oh, it needs to be more sophisticated." So that's why I did the one on the right. And I hope I got the sophistication. We try to not just make a brutal enemy, but someone who's actually, who's been out there, make something unique, something refined. And I'm super happy with how the Crystal King turned out. And of course, there was a lot of debate, I think, if is it a mech or not. The initial idea, because you need to show, we wanted to show the Crystal King inside the big form. And the initial idea is like, it's a crystal where that form goes, like you see it as a spirit, it's in there, it's part of the big creature, not driving it, but he is that. So this is one, again, something I have next on my desk. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I know, discussions about articulation, but again, it's a toy, it needs to be able to stand. So that sometimes defines our wishes to actually what would make the best product.